Welcome to Wisdom Trek with Gramps. I am Guthrie Chamberlain, and we are on day 2517 of our trek. The purpose of Wisdom Trek is to create a legacy of wisdom, to seek out discernment and insights, and to boldly grow where few have chosen to grow before. In today's Wisdom Nugget, I'm delighted to journey with you through the closing verses of Psalm 36, and today we'll focus on verses 10 through 12 from the New Living Translation. This psalm, written by David, began with a sobering reflection of the nature of sin and then transitioned into the celebration of God's unfailing love, faithfulness, and provision. In these final verses, David offers a prayer for God's continued protection and justice while expressing confidence in God's ultimate victory over evil. Let's begin by reading Psalm chapter 36, verses 10 through 12. Pour out your unfailing love on those who love you. Give justice to those with honest hearts. Don't let the proud trample me, or the wicked push me around. Look, those who do evil have fallen. They are thrown down, never to rise again. David opens this section with verse 10 in a heartfelt prayer. Pour out your unfailing love on those who love you. Give justice to those with honest hearts. This verse reflects David's deepest desire for God's love and justice to be evident in the lives of his people. The phrase, pour out your unfailing love, calls to mind an image of abundance and overflow. David isn't asking for a small measure of God's love. He's asking that it be lavished on those who are devoted to God. The recipients of this love are described as those who love you. This highlights the reciprocal nature of our relationship with God. While his love is unconditional, it flourishes in the hearts of those who seek him, honor him, and respond to his love with devotion and obedience. It reminds us that God's loving involves more than just words. It's reflected on how we live, trust, and align our lives with his will. David also prays, give justice to those with honest hearts. Justice, in this context, is about fairness and righteousness. David is asking for God to protect and vindicate those who live with integrity, ensuring that they are not wronged by the wicked or overlooked in the chaos of the world. An honest heart represents a life lived with transparency and truth before God, free of deceit and hypocrisy. This verse encourages us to seek both God's love and his justice. As we walk in integrity and love for him, we can trust that he will pour his love upon us and ensure that justice prevails, even in a world that often seems unfair. In verse 11, David shifts his focus to a plea for protection. Don't let the proud trample me or the wicked push me around. Here, David acknowledges the threat posed by those who are arrogant and wicked. The proud represents individuals who rely on their own strength and disregard God's authority, while the wicked are those who are actively opposed to God's way and to seek to harm others. David's request is simple yet profound. He asks God to prevent these forces from overpowering him. The imagery of being trampled or pushed around conveys a sense of vulnerability. David knows that without God's protection, he could easily be overwhelmed by the power and schemes of his enemies. This verse is a reminder that we all face opposition in life, whether it comes from external circumstances, difficult people, or our own spiritual battles. Like David, we can bring these challenges to God, asking him to shield us from harm and to uphold us with his strength. When we trust in God's protection, we can stand firm, knowing that he is greater than any opposition that we may face. David concludes this psalm in verse 12 with a statement of confidence. Look, those who do evil have fallen. They are thrown down, never to rise again. This verse provides a powerful contrast to the earlier description of the wicked in the psalm. While they may seem strong and successful for a time, the end is certain. David envisions a future where evil is completely defeated and those who oppose God's ways are brought low. The phrase, never to rise again, underscores the finality of this judgment. David is confident that God's justice will ultimately prevail, bringing an end to the power and influence of the wicked. This isn't a wish for personal revenge, but an affirmation of God's righteousness and commitment to bring about justice in his perfect timing. For us, this verse is a source of hope and reassurance. When we look at the world around us, we see injustice, corruption, and evil seemingly thriving. And this can be discouraging. But David's words remind us that God's justice is inevitable. The wicked may prosper for a season, but their downfall is unavoidable because God's righteousness cannot be overcome. Psalm 36, verses 10 through 12, invites us to reflect on some profound themes that are as relevant today as they were in David's time. Here are a few key lessons that we can take from these verses. First, God's love is abundant and available. David prayed for God to pour out his love, and it reminds us that God's love is not limited or conditional. It flows freely to those who seek him and love him. When we align our hearts with his, we can experience the fullness of his unfailing love, which sustains and strengthens us in every season. Second, justice is central to God's character. David's plea for justice highlights God's concern for fairness and righteousness. In a world where injustice often prevails, knowing that God sees and will act is comforting. For those who live with honest hearts, God's justice is both a promise and a protection. Third, God is our protector against opposition. The prayer for protection from the proud and the wicked encourages us to trust God's power to defend us. We don't need to face our battles alone. We have a God who fights for us to ensure that the forces of evil do not overcome us. And fourth, the wicked will not prevail. David's confidence in the ultimate downfall of the wicked reminds us that God's justice is not only certain, but final. While we may face challenges and injustice in the present, we can trust that God will bring about his perfect judgment in his time. These verses challenge us to live with faith, integrity, and trust in God's promises. They encourage us to bring our prayers and concerns to him, knowing that he is loving and just. How can we apply these truths to our daily lives? What are a few practical steps? Well, first, we can cultivate a love for God. Spend time in his word and in prayer, deepening our relationship with him. As you grow in your love for God, you'll experience more of his unfailing love poured out into your life. We need to also pursue integrity. Strive to live with an honest heart, seeking to honor God in his words, actions, and relationships. When we walk in integrity, we reflect God's character and invite his blessings into our lives. We can also trust in God's protection. When you face challenges or opposition, bring them to God in prayer. Trust that he sees your struggle and will defend you in his perfect way and timing. And we can also rest in God's justice. When the world feels unjust or overwhelming, remember David's confidence in God's ultimate victory over evil. Hold on to the hope that God's righteousness will prevail, even when we can't see it at the moment. As we conclude our study in Psalm 36, I encourage you to take these final verses to heart. David's prayer is a powerful reminder of God's love, justice, protection, and the certainty of his victory over evil. In every season of life, we can trust that God is faithful, his love is unfailing, and his justice will prevail. Thank you for joining me today on our Wisdom Trek. Until the next time, may God's wisdom guide your steps. May his unfailing love fill your hearts with peace and confidence. And if you found this podcast insightful, please subscribe and leave us a review. Then encourage your friends and family to join us and come along with us tomorrow for another day of Wisdom Trek, creating a legacy. Thank you so much for allowing me to be your guide, your mentor, and most importantly, I am your friend as I serve you through the Wisdom Trek podcast and journal. And as we take this trek of life together, let us always live abundantly, love unconditionally, listen intentionally, learn continuously, lend to others generously, lead with integrity, and leave a living legacy each day. I am Guthrie Chamberlain, reminding you to keep moving forward, enjoy your journey, and create a great day every day. See you next time for more daily wisdom.